The night my father threw me out of the house, there was no shouting, no drama, no neighbors watching, just one sentence. And a door. Sometimes silence hurts more than abuse because silence means the decision was already made. My name is Ethan Carter, and in my father's house, I was never really his son. Not in the way a son is supposed to be. People always say, parents love all children equally. That sentence is written by people who were never unwanted. My father, Robert Carter, was a powerful man, successful businessman, respected in society. The kind of man people stood up for. At home, he sat at the head of the table like a judge, and we were always on trial. I was the youngest. Two elder brothers, Ryan and Matthew, one elder sister, Olivia. They were everything my father wanted. Quiet, obedient, successful, and then there was me. I wasn't evil, I wasn't a criminal, but I wasn't perfect either. I drank sometimes, I skipped college classes, I fought not for fun but because anger had nowhere else to go. Bad habits, yes, but no one ever asked why I had them. My mother died when I was 10, cancer, slow, painful. After that, the house changed. Food still came to the table, clothes were still washed, but warmth left, and somehow so did I. Every mistake I made became proof. See, he's useless, he'll ruin everything, he's just like his mother. That last line was my father's favorite, and every time he said it, it felt like he was killing her again. I tried fixing myself, I really did. I quit drinking for a year, got a job, came home early. But once you're labeled the problem, even your silence sounds suspicious. People don't notice growth when they're invested in your failure. If this story already feels familiar to you, stay with me. And subscribe, because some stories don't just entertain, they explain wounds people never talk about. Then came the day that changed everything. My father called a family meeting, not casual, formal, lawyer present, files neatly arranged. The room smelled like final decisions. My health isn't what it used to be, my father said calmly. I want everything settled. Ryan leaned forward confidently. Matthew nodded like this was expected. Olivia held his arm lovingly. I sat on the side, not because there was no space, because I was never meant to sit at the center. He started distributing company shares, Ryan, second property, Matthew, savings, jewelry, retirement funds, Olivia. Each sentence landed like a hammer. I waited and waited and waited. Silence, not accidental silence. Intentional. Dad, I finally spoke. Every eye turned toward me. My father didn't look surprised, he looked prepared. Ethan, he said slowly, you've already taken enough from this family. The room froze. What does that mean? My voice cracked. You wasted money, you wasted opportunities, you embarrassed us, he continued. I won't reward bad behavior. Reward, like love was a bonus, like being his son was a subscription that had expired. I'm your son, I whispered. He leaned back. That doesn't automatically make you deserving. That sentence rewired something inside me, because I finally understood this was never about property. This was about worth. I looked at my brothers. Ryan stared at the table. Matthew avoided my eyes. I looked at Olivia. She looked away. That silence, that hurt more than my father's words. No one defended me, not one sentence, not one question, not one memory of what I had survived. That night, my father gave me two choices. Fix your life somewhere else, he said, or keep destroying it here. I smiled, not because it was funny, because the truth had finally stopped hiding. I packed a bag, not clothes, memories. My mother's old photographs, school certificates my father never looked at, a watch he once gave me before disappointment replaced love. At the door, I stopped. Did you ever love me? I asked. The house was quiet. My father didn't answer. He closed the door. Outside, the night was cold. But inside me, something colder was born, not anger, not hate, clarity. Because when a family decides you are nothing, you have only two options: disappear, or become so strong that their regret becomes louder than their pride. I slept on a friend's couch that night, staring at the ceiling, thinking about one question that wouldn't leave me: why did everyone else get a future and I got erased? And if you think this is just a sad story, you're wrong. This is only the beginning, because what I discovered next changed everything. If you're still listening, subscribe, not for me. For the part where truth comes out, masks fall, and the forgotten son returns in a way no one expected. The first thing you learn after being thrown out of your own house is that freedom doesn't feel free. It feels empty. I slept on my friend's couch for 3 nights, staring at a ceiling fan that made the same noise again and again, like it was counting my failures. Or maybe reminding me that I didn't belong anywhere. Every morning, my phone stayed silent. No call from my father, no message from my brothers, no check-in from my sister. And that silence answered a question I had been afraid to ask. They were relieved I was gone. I tried to distract myself. Job interviews, cheap coffee, long walks at night, but my mind kept going back to that meeting. The lawyer, the files, the way my father had already decided my future without me. If you're listening to this and thinking, this sounds too real, stay with me. And subscribe, because some truths only reveal themselves after you lose everything. On the fourth day, something unexpected happened. I received a call from a number I didn't recognize. "Is this Ethan Carter?" a woman asked. "Yes. This is Helen Moore. I was your mother's lawyer." My heart stopped. "My mother had a lawyer?" I asked. Silence on the other end. "Yes," she said carefully, "and she asked me to contact you if anything ever happened." We met that evening in a small office that smelled like old paper and forgotten secrets. Helen was in her late 60s, sharp eyes, calm voice. She placed a file on the table. "This," she said, "is why your father never wanted you involved in the property." My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside were documents I had never seen before: land deeds, bank statements, insurance policies, and then a will dated 3 months before my mother died. My mother's will. I scanned the pages quickly. My name appeared once, twice, then again. Equal share, property rights, a trust. My chest tightened. "That's impossible," I whispered. "My father said," Helen interrupted me gently. "Your father said many things," she replied. "Not all of them were true." She leaned forward. "Your mother suspected something," she said. "She suspected your father would change things after her death." I felt dizzy. "Change what?" I asked. Helen slid another document toward me, a handwritten note from my mother. "If you are reading this, it means I was right. Ethan is not weak, he is just unheard. Please make sure he is not erased." My vision blurred. My mother had seen me when no one else did. Helen continued. "Your mother invested in a separate property," she said. "Purchased under a trust. Your father was not the sole owner." My heart pounded. "Where is it now?" I asked. Helen's jaw tightened. "Your father transferred it illegally." That was the moment anger finally arrived. Not loud anger. Not screaming anger, cold anger, the kind that thinks. "So he stole from his own wife?" I asked. Helen nodded. "And blamed you for being irresponsible to justify cutting you out." I laughed bitterly. Bad habits, bad son. Bad investment? That was the story they sold. That night I couldn't sleep. Not because I was broken, because I was awake. For the first time, I started looking deeper. Public records, old emails, messages my mother had saved. And slowly a pattern emerged. Ryan and Matthew weren't innocent. They knew. They had helped my father transfer assets. They didn't argue, they didn't question, because benefiting from injustice is easier than stopping it. I confronted Ryan first. Not angry, calm. "Did you know about Mom's will?" I asked. Silence, then a sigh. "That was a long time ago," he said. "Things change. People change," I replied. "Rights don't." Matthew was worse, he laughed. "You always play the victim," he said. "You think you deserve something just because you exist? Exist. Like being born was a crime." That night I sat alone and realized something terrifying. My family didn't just abandon me. They rewrote history to make it feel justified. If you've ever been blamed for problems you didn't create, subscribe, because this story is no longer about property, it's about truth. I went back to Helen. "I want my share," I said. She shook her head. "Not yet," she replied. "You don't fight powerful people loudly." "So what do I do?" I asked. She smiled slightly. "You wait," she said, "and you prepare." That's when the revenge began, not with violence. Not with threats, with documents, proof, time. My father didn't know that every transfer left a trail, that every lie was recorded somewhere, that every signature could be questioned. A week later, my father called me for the first time. "Stop digging," he said coldly. "You'll regret it." I smiled, not because I was confident, because fear had switched sides. "You taught me something," I replied calmly. "That family isn't blood." Then I hung up. That night, I looked at my reflection in a dark window. I didn't see the drunk sun, the disappointment. I saw something new, a man who had nothing left to lose, and people with nothing to lose are the most dangerous. Because the truth I had uncovered was only the beginning. What I would uncover next would destroy reputations, break alliances, and force my family to finally look at me not as a problem, but as a threat. If you think this is where the story peaks, you're wrong. The real damage hasn't even started yet. The hardest part about uncovering the truth is realizing how many people work together to hide it. I used to think my father acted alone. I was wrong. He had help. Once you start looking closely, lies stop looking clean. They start leaving fingerprints. Helen helped me file a legal request for historical records, property transfers, trust modifications, insurance beneficiaries. At first it felt boring, numbers, dates, signatures. But then patterns appeared, and patterns don't lie. The first real shock came from a bank manager who thought I was still part of the family. "You're Ethan Carter, right?" he asked casually. "Your father and brothers come here often." Often. That word stuck with me. "They've been restructuring assets for years," he added. "Very strategic." Strategic. Another polite word for something dirty. I requested copies of everything. He hesitated, then leaned closer. "Off the record," he whispered, "your mother's trust was dissolved without her consent." My chest tightened. "That's illegal," I said. He nodded. "Very." That night I didn't drink, didn't distract myself, didn't escape. I sat quietly and reviewed every document. And then I saw it. A signature, my mother's, but I knew her handwriting. This wasn't it. My hands trembled, forgery, clear, obvious, careless. They had rushed. Because they never thought someone like me would look closely. If this story feels personal to you, pause for 1 second and subscribe. Not because this is entertainment. Because stories like this happen every day and silence keeps them alive. I confronted Matthew again, this time with proof. I placed the documents on the table. "Explain this," I said. He stared long, then laughed. "You're really doing this," he said. "You think anyone will believe you?" That laugh told me everything. "Did you forge her signature?" I asked. Matthew's smile disappeared. "You always loved drama," he replied. That was his confession. Ryan was different. He didn't deny, he justified. "Dad was protecting the family," he said. "You were unstable, risky." "Risky to what?" I asked. "The money." He didn't answer. I realized something horrifying. They didn't see me as a son, they saw me as a liability. Then came the biggest twist. Helen called me late one night. "Ethan," she said quietly, "there's something else." My stomach dropped. "There's a second will," she continued. "Not registered, hidden like me." We met again. This time she looked nervous. "This document changes everything," she said. I opened it slowly. My mother had written, "If Robert removes Ethan from inheritance, it confirms my fears. Ethan is to receive full control of the trust property." My knees went weak. Full control, not a share, everything. Helen looked at me seriously. "Your father knew this," she said. "That's why he erased you." Everything clicked, my bad habits, the constant blame, the narrative. It wasn't disappointment, it was preparation. I finally understood the real reason I was never forgiven, because forgiveness would make me powerful. That night my father called again, this time angry. "You're embarrassing the family," he snapped. "Stop this now." I stayed calm. "You taught me one thing," I replied. "Control matters." He went silent, then said something that chilled me. "If you push this, you'll lose whatever family you have left." I smiled. "Dad," I said softly, "I already lost it." The next day, I did something dangerous. I leaked information, not everything, just enough. Anonymous emails, selective documents. Journalists love patterns, and corruption loves shadows. A week later, whispers started, at business meetings, at social events. My father noticed. Ryan noticed. Matthew panicked. Then came the confrontation, all of them in my father's office. For the first time, I didn't sit quietly. "You planned this," I said calmly. "You erased me because Mom trusted me." My father slammed his hand on the desk. "You were a problem," he shouted. "You would have ruined everything." I leaned forward. "You ruined it," I replied. "And blamed me for existing." Silence. Heavy. Ryan finally spoke. "What do you want?" he asked. I looked at them, all of them. "I want the truth," I said, "and what's legally mine." Matthew laughed nervously. "You think you can win?" he said. I smiled. "I already am." That's when I showed them the second will. My father's face drained of color. For the first time in my life, he was afraid of me. If you're still listening, subscribe. Because this isn't the end. This is the moment the forgotten son becomes the biggest threat. The lawsuit was filed the next morning. Forgery, fraud, illegal asset transfer, everything. My father stopped sleeping. Ryan stopped talking. Matthew stopped laughing, and I slept peacefully. For the first time in years, because revenge isn't loud, it's precise. And the next step would destroy not just property but reputations. And when reputation falls, power follows. The courtroom was packed, not because justice was important, because power was being challenged. And people love watching powerful men fall. My father, Robert Carter, walked in like he still owned the room. Expensive suit, straight posture. No fear on his face. That image alone told me something painful. He still believed he could win. Ryan and Matthew sat behind him, silent, tense. For the first time in their lives, they weren't protected by family dinners or private meetings. This time, truth had witnesses. When I entered, cameras clicked, journalists whispered. I heard my name spoken out loud by strangers. That felt strange. All my life, my name was ignored. Now it echoed. The judge entered. Everyone stood. And in that moment, I felt something I never felt before: equality. No father, no son, no favorite child, just people. The case began with documents. Dry, boring, that's what my father expected. He leaned back confidently. Until my lawyer stood. We are not here because of a family disagreement, she said calmly. We are here because of fraud. That word hit the room like a gunshot. She placed the forged signatures on the screen, side by side. Original handwriting, forged copy, the difference was obvious. Gasps filled the room. Ryan's face went pale. Matthew clenched his jaw. My father finally leaned forward, not confident anymore. Alert. Then came the audio. A phone call recording, my father's voice. Cold, clear. Ethan can't get anything. If he does, everything falls apart. Silence, dead silence. The judge looked up slowly. Mr. Carter, he said, did you say this? My father opened his mouth, closed it, then said, I don't recall. The weakest defense powerful men use. If you've ever watched someone deny truth that you heard with your own ears, pause here and subscribe. Because this is where lies start dying. Then came the email trail. Messages between my father, Ryan, and Matthew, planning transfers, discussing my instability, referring to me as a risk, not a son, a risk. The judge raised his eyebrow. You discussed your child like an asset, he said. My father snapped. He was never reliable. The room froze. The judge leaned forward. This court did not ask about your emotions, he said sharply. It asked about your actions. For the first time, my father was being corrected, then something unexpected happened. My sister Olivia stood up. She had stayed quiet all this time, ignored calls, avoided cameras, but now she was shaking. I need to speak, she said. My father turned. Sit down, he whispered. She didn't. I knew, Olivia said, tears falling. I knew about Mom's second will. The room exploded. Ryan stood up. What are you doing? He hissed. Olivia cried. I stayed silent because it was easier, because I didn't want problems. She looked at me. I'm sorry. That apology hurt more than the betrayal. The judge allowed her testimony, and with every sentence my father shrank. She begged him not to do this, Olivia continued. Mom begged him not to erase Ethan. My father slammed the table. Enough, he shouted. Security moved closer. And that's when he broke, not emotionally, strategically. You want the truth, my father snapped. Fine, he pointed at me. He wasn't planned. The room went still. He was a mistake, my father continued. A reminder of a marriage that trapped me. My chest tightened, so that was it. You punished me, I said calmly, for reminding you of something you hated. He laughed bitterly. I gave you food, shelter, education. I nodded. You gave me survival, I replied. They gave me love. The judge interrupted. Enough, he said firmly. The verdict came 2 weeks later. Forgery proven, assets frozen, second will recognized. Everything my father built was now under investigation. Outside the courtroom, reporters surrounded him. Questions flew. Did you steal from your wife? Did you disinherit your son illegally? Are the accusations true? For the first time in my life, my father didn't have answers. Ryan and Matthew stopped calling. Their wives left. Friends disappeared. Power is attractive until it's gone. That night my father called me one last time. Was this worth it? He asked quietly. I looked out the window. City lights glowing, peaceful. Yes, I replied. Because now the truth exists. He paused, then asked something unexpected. Do you hate me? I closed my eyes. No, I said, I understand you. Silence. Then the call ended. If you're still here, subscribe. Because the final part isn't about winning, it's about what revenge costs and what it finally gives back. The forgotten son was no longer forgotten, but the price was heavier than I imagined. Winning doesn't feel the way movies promise. There is no background music, no slow-motion relief, no applause, there is only silence. The day the final verdict came, I was alone, not in a courtroom. Not surrounded by lawyers or reporters, just me, and a phone that vibrated once. Case closed, assets released, trust transferred, that was it. Years of erasure, months of fighting, decades of being unwanted, reduced to 3 lines of text. I should have felt powerful, I didn't. I felt empty. My father didn't attend the final hearing. His lawyer did. Robert Carter, the man who once controlled everything, was now unwell. That word again, unwell. The same excuse he once used for me. Ryan called 2 days later, not confident, not angry, small. I didn't think it would end like this, he said quietly. I held the phone loosely. How did you think it would end? I asked. Silence, then he whispered, I thought you'd disappear. Disappear, like I almost did. Matthew didn't call. He sent a message instead. You won. Happy now? I stared at the screen for a long time, then replied, I didn't win, I survived. He never replied again. Olivia came to see me. No cameras, no apologies shaped for public ears, just her. She sat across from me, eyes red. I was afraid, she said. Afraid of losing comfort, afraid of Dad. Afraid of choosing sides. I nodded. Fear explains behavior, it doesn't excuse it. I don't expect forgiveness, she continued. I just want you to know Mom would be proud of you. That sentence broke something inside me. Because for the first time in years, I believed it. If you're still listening to this story, pause here and subscribe. Not because of revenge, because healing stories don't get told enough. The property was transferred to my name. The same property my mother had protected. I visited it once. Empty rooms, dusty windows. I didn't feel ownership. I felt grief, because this wasn't a victory, it was a recovery. I sold part of it, not to hurt anyone, but to build distance. Some places hold too many ghosts. Then my father called. One last time, his voice was weaker now, older, not powerful. Ethan, he said slowly, I spent my whole life controlling outcomes. I didn't interrupt. I thought if I erased you, he continued, I could erase my mistakes. I closed my eyes. You didn't erase me, I said calmly. You just delayed the truth. He sighed. I don't expect you to forgive me. I believed him. Good, I replied, because forgiveness isn't what this is about. What is it about then? He asked. I thought for a moment. Ending the cycle, I said. He didn't respond. And for the first time, I didn't wait. Weeks passed. Life slowed. Peace arrived quietly. I started therapy, not because I was broken, but because surviving injustice leaves scars. One day, my therapist asked, what hurts more, losing your father's love or never having it? That question stayed with me. Because some losses hurt precisely because they never existed. I stopped drinking completely, not to prove anything, but because clarity felt better than numbness. I got promoted at work not because I chased success, but because I finally believed I deserved stability, and then something unexpected happened. People started messaging me, strangers. I'm the unwanted son too. My parents erased me. Your story sounds like my life. That's when I understood. This wasn't just my story, so I did something my father never did. I used power to protect, not erase. I funded a legal support group for children disinherited unfairly. Quietly, no press, no credit. Because some victories don't need witnesses. On my mother's birthday, I visited her grave. I told her everything, the truth, the pain, the ending. I wasn't weak, I whispered. I was just unseen. The wind moved gently. And for the first time, I felt answered. My father died 6 months later. No dramatic goodbye, no reconciliation scene, just news. I attended the funeral, stood quietly at the back, not angry, not relieved, just finished. Ryan didn't speak to me. Matthew avoided me. Olivia hugged me. That was enough. Here's the truth nobody tells you. Revenge doesn't heal you. Justice does. Revenge burns everything. Justice builds boundaries. And if you're listening to this story thinking, this sounds like my family, please hear this. You are not difficult. You are not unworthy. You are not a mistake. Sometimes families don't fail because of bad children. They fail because of unresolved parents. I didn't become rich from this story. I became free. And freedom is the inheritance no one can steal. If this story touched you, subscribe. Because there are many more stories about the ones who were erased, and the moment they finally wrote themselves back in.